Universalist Church of Pasadena. Welcome to all of our members, friends, and guests. My name is George Shearer, and I'm the treasurer on your board of trustees, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith, connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. With respect for the rights and wisdom of indigenous people, we acknowledge our harmful colonial practices, colonial histories, and commit to decolonizing our own practices, to learning new ways of being in community and with each other in good relationship with the indigenous people of this land and with the land itself. Today's service is led by Senior Minister Reverend Dr. Omega Burkhart. Our music today is led by Music Director Dr. Zenaida Robles with Wells Lang and the Neighborhood Choir. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Families with young children are always welcome in the sanctuary, and there is additional seating in the entry foyer or narthex. I have two brief announcements this morning. This month, Neighborhood Church will be engaging with a book called Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers as we talk about the power of story. The book is widely available, but if you'd like to borrow a copy, there are 3 copies to check out in the main entryway of Neighborhood House. Secondly, join us today for an all-ages drop-in chalice circle to kick off the month's theme of storytelling. The group will meet in the living room of Neighborhood House. More extensive announcements, as well as our order of service this morning, are available as a link in the Sunday's email. Our order of service is also available online by scanning the QR code on the back of your hymnal with your phone camera. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
Well, Happy New Year. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne, and surely you'll buy your pint cup, and surely I'll buy mine, and we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. We too have run about the hills and picked the daisies fine, but we've wandered weary, a weary foot since Auld Lang Syne. And so it goes with these words from Robert Burns. We say goodbye to the past, both the joy of adventure and the flowers on the hillsides, but also to love's past and to old acquaintances. We honor them. We are thankful for them. We drink from a cup of kindness and grace, a chalice, if you will, of experience. We fold our learnings into new stories. We take what we need and we move boldly into this new year. It is a future that is unfolding. It is a future that is unknown. So let us gather today in this space with a chalice full of oil for this new year, a new year of promise and also complexity. Today we light this chalice with this fire of transformation. It is a fire of letting go. It is also a fire of holding on to what we need. It is a fire of resilience. It is a fire of vulnerability. So come, let us worship together today. As we begin our time together this morning, I invite you into a moment of shared silence, of shared breath. It is a moment of centering as we enter into this new year together. I invite you to center yourself in this space this morning, this space, bringing your senses to this moment, this place. Breathing in deeply, finding your body here, finding your spirit here in this community. Breathing in deeply and exhaling. Welcome to you this morning. We have arrived.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 1000, the first hymn in your teal hymnal, Morning Has Come.
Good morning. Can I invite all the kids to come up? Do we have the... Oh, there they are. Do you guys want to come closer so you can see the pictures? That's half the fun of a picture book. Fine, don't see them. All right, well today we're going to be reading A Little Tree by Lauren Long. Once there was a little tree filled with little leaves. See? Who was surrounded by other little trees who had little leaves of their own. And there's his friends. That's nice. In the heat of long summer days, Little Tree's leaves kept him cool. The squirrels would climb up on his branches to play. The mourning dove landed in him and sang her fluttery song. The little tree was sure to grow up big and strong. There's the squirrel, there's the mourning dove. Autumn arrived and cool winds filled the air. The wind tickled the little tree as it passed through his branches and ruffled his leaves. The air grew cold, and the leaves on all of the trees changed color, becoming yellow, red, and orange. Then one by one, the trees began to drop their leaves. But not Little Tree. He just hugged his leaves tight. Look, see, everybody's dropping, and he's just keeping them on, I guess. Hello, Little Tree, said a squirrel. You're supposed to drop your leaves now. But Little Tree was unsure. What would he do without his leaves? Winter came. What are you doing with leaves still on you? Asked the doe. Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. Springtime arrived, and the little forest burst into life again. The other trees grew bright new leaves. The squirrels played in their branches. Little Tree could hear the mourning dove singing her fluttery song. The seasons continued to come and go. Little Tree, quacked a duckling, your leaves are brown. Are you feeling sick? A fox said, Little Tree, it's autumn. It's time for you to drop your leaves. You can do it. Ready? 1, 2. But Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight. All around the forest grew and grew. One summer, Little Tree could no longer feel the sunlight. The squirrels played high above on the broad, tall trees, and the mourning dove sang so far away that he could hardly hear her fluttery song. Everybody's kind of grown up around him. Autumn came again. Leaves began to blanket the ground. Little Tree looked up at the other trees, at their branches reaching high into the sky. He remembered when the trees had all been his size. And then he let go. As his last leaf floated to the ground, for the first time, Little Tree felt the harsh cold of winter. But in time, something happened. Once there was a little tree. The end. Oh, sure.
We're going to sing them out for their class.
Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions to 501c3 organizations or to neighborhood church-based social justice activities that are making a difference in our community and in the world. Each selected guest organization aligns with our community's mission and values and is nominated by church members who often are longtime volunteers and supporters of these change-making institutions. You can donate in one of two ways. You can use your cell phone to donate by texting the number on the screen, or if you'd prefer to donate in person, put your donation in one of the designated boxes during the music or after the service. There is a donation box here in the front, behind the back center row, and in the narthex entryway on the table. You may rise during the music to put your donation in the box if you wish. Please extend help to those in your area who may need assistance reaching the donation boxes. If you wish to make a payment towards your pledge or contribute to church operations, make a note in the subject line of your check or use an envelope available at the donation box. This week, our gifts will support the Audubon Society at Debs Park. Here with more information is Rachel Bailey, the education coordinator.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for having me with you today. I typed up what I'm going to read because otherwise I'll ramble and make no sense. My name is Rachel Bailey and I work at the Audubon Center at Debs Park. I said it's about 15 minutes from here. It's maybe like, I don't know, between 10 and 15. It's pretty close, just down the 110. We're a nonprofit community conservation center. So we're sort of like a nature center, which I'm sure many of you have been to nature centers before. But we focus on getting local community members actually involved in conservation science. So we're a part of the National Audubon Society, which is a bird conservation organization. We do a lot of work through many different projects at the Audubon Center. One of the things that we do is native habitat restoration with a focus on birds, but also for all other wildlife and humans. We do this by planting California native plants, watering them until they're established, and educating the public about the wildlife that uses these spaces. We involve volunteers, interns, students, and community partners in this practice of land stewardship. We also host K-12 field trips on site to give LA students the chance to explore nature, use binoculars, investigate habitats and wildlife as a scientist, and learn about how they have the ability to be involved in conservation. We are open to the public on weekends in January this month, but from Thursday through Sunday the rest of the year, from 8 to 4. And while we're open, we have a welcome center where we lend out child and adult binoculars, backpacks, compasses, art supplies, nature books, and a ton more, all for free, so that anyone can have the tools that they need to explore the trails of Debs Park and learn what's around them. We also lend out for free off-site educator kits of binoculars and lightweight nature books so that schools and other organizations can access our tools and host their own programming throughout LA County. So if you know of any organizations that host like guided nature walks, keep us in mind because we love to lend out equipment. There's so much more that we do, from partnerships with Pasadena City College, native plant workshops, plant donations, to other local restoration projects, and making our physical space available for community members to use in a variety of ways. All of this work is for Angelenos, with a focus on the local communities in and around Northeast LA, and our programming is almost always free so that we are as accessible as possible for anyone to experience nature. We're very grateful for support from community members like you all so that we can keep offering these programs, tools, and resources, because we believe everyone deserves easy access to nature. I'm more than happy to chat about the Audubon Center a little bit more after the service and answer any questions. And thank you so much again for having me and for supporting us.
Thank you for giving generously.
I have two readings for you this morning. The first comes from author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie in her TED Talk that she released, The Danger of a Single Story. Now, for those of you who are in chalice circles or involved in other program areas here, you might recognize her. There is a quote in our materials for this month about story that comes from this TED Talk. I wanted to give some of the context from the earlier part of her TED Talk that doesn't appear in her quote that we have available to us here. She says this in her TED Talk. I come from a conventional middle-class Nigerian family. My father was a professor and my mother was an administrator. And so we had, as was the norm, live-in domestic help who would often come from nearby local villages. So the year I turned 8, we got a new houseboy. His name was Fide. The only thing my mother told us about him was that his family was very poor. My mother sent yams and rice and our old clothes to his family, and when I didn't finish my dinner, my mother would say, "Finish your food. Don't you know? People like Fide's family have nothing." So I felt enormous pity for Fide's family. Then one Saturday, we went to his village to visit, and his mother showed us a beautifully patterned basket made of dyed raffia that his brother had made. I was startled. It had not occurred to me that anybody in his family could actually make something. All I heard about them was how poor they were, so that it had become impossible for me to see them as anything else but poor. Their poverty was my single story of them. Now, years later, I thought about this when I left Nigeria, she writes, to go to university in the United States. I was 19. My American roommate was shocked by me. She asked where I had learned to speak English so well and was confused when I said that Nigeria happened to have English as its official language. She asked if she could listen to what she called my tribal music, and was consequently very disappointed when I produced my tape of Mariah Carey. She assumed that I did not know how to use a stove. What struck me was this. She had felt sorry for me even before she saw me. Her default position toward me as an African was a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. My roommate had a single story of Africa, a single story of catastrophe. In this single story, there was no possibility of Africans being similar to her in any way. No possibility of feelings more complex than pity, no possibility of a connection as human equals. I must say that before I went to the United States, I didn't conscientiously identify as African. But in the US, whenever Africa came up, people turned to me. Never mind that I knew nothing about places like Namibia. She goes on to say later, so this is how to create a single story. Show people as only one thing, over and over again, and that is what they become. It is impossible to talk about the single story without talking about power. There is a word in the Igbo language that I think about whenever I think about power structures of the world, and it is Nkali. It is a noun that loosely translates to be greater than another. Like our economic and political worlds, stories, too, are defined by the principles of Nkali, how they are told, who tells them, when they are told, how many stories are told. All of these are really dependent on power. Now, our second quote comes from a different source. It is a selection from the book that we will be reading this month, Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. She writes this: "It is difficult for anyone born and raised in human infrastructure to truly internalize the fact that your view of the world is backwards." She goes on to say, even if you fully know that you live in a natural world that existed before you and will continue long after you, Even if you know that the wilderness is the default state of things, and that nature is not something that only happens in carefully curated enclaves between towns, something that pops up in empty spaces if you ignore them for a while. Even if you spend your whole life believing yourself to be deeply in touch with the ebb and flow, with the cycle, the ecosystem as it actually is, you will still have trouble picturing an untouched world. You will still struggle to understand that human constructs are carved out and overlaid, and that these are the places of the in-between, not the other way around. And thus ends our readings this morning. There is an area stretching from central southern Kansas northward through the state called the Flint Hills. These rolling grasslands, seemingly plain to the untrained eye, especially for folks who are zooming through in cars on major highways, these rolling grasslands don't appear to have much going on. While there are trees, they are sparse and mostly nestled in the shallow valleys where the water collects. The soil is quite thin in this area, making it a difficult area for humans throughout history to grow, to cultivate food. The ground is mostly shale and limestone, alternating with chert, which is a rock that really resists erosion, even by the strong winds, those tornadic winds that rip through in the spring and summer. The skies, however, are wide open, often bright blue when it's not raining and there's no storm on the horizon. And this is when the true beauty of those Flint Hills makes its appearance. Billows of green and amber grasses move with the wind, making waves across hundreds of miles of rolling hills. This area is the largest region of intact tall grass prairie left in the United States, left in the Great Plains. Big and little blue stem grasses grow here, along with Indian grass and switchgrass and other grasses. Now, these grasses, along with others, provide ample food for bison and, more recently, cattle. The Pawnee indigenous groups, Osage, the Wichita, other indigenous groups cared for these grasslands to provide and maintain healthy ecosystems for the bison. And then later, European colonists recognized the importance of caring for these unique areas for related reasons, finding it rich in biodiversity and clean, healthy water, good food for cattle and other ruminants. And every year, every spring, the hills are on fire. In the dark, especially, the vast vistas give way to blackness. There are few lights in this area, but as far as the eye can see, lines of fire travel up and down the rolling hillsides. Traditional and modern caretakers of this land have long known the power of fire in the region, and prescribed burning, controlled burning in the spring has been one of the most effective ways to increase the root system, the strength and length, the quantity of blooming grasses, and the overall quality of the stalks of the blue stem in particular. Now, the roots of the blue stem and these other grasses, they grow up to 6, or maybe I should say down to 6 or 7 feet, even in that rocky soil. For comparison, your average lawn, the roots of that grass go only down a few inches. In the Flint Hills, areas are scheduled for planned burns every few years, and the area in which the burns occur, 3 or 4 times, they've estimated, in 10 years, those areas show upwards of double the stalks and blooms and root biomass. And the wildlife love it too. The white-tailed deer, the sheep, other animals, they choose to graze in previously burned areas. As with prescribed burns in other areas of the country, invasive species, plants, they are controlled by this burning. They have not adapted to survive with those deep root structures. And the weeds and dangerous plants are eradicated from this delicate ecosystem. But as with all living things, there is no single story to these prescribed burns of the Flint Hills. While the benefits of the burns are clear and have been for time eternal, modern ranching has taken over the region, and the ecological impacts and, of course, ethical questions that cattle ranching raises are of increasing lively debate. In addition, managing the air pollution caused by the burning is part of the puzzle, not only for the inhabitants of the communities in that region, but for all of us as we come to understand the way that climate change is affecting us all. There is no single story to the controlled burns of the Flint Hills. There are many stories. There is the story of spring renewal, of nutrients being released back into the soil to provide nourishment for new growth. There is the story of traditional ways of caretaking of the land and how those methods have informed, for good or ill, modern ways of land management. And there's also the story of the beauty of those lines of fire stretching into the distance on a clear evening where the stars shine brightly overhead. There's also the story of the big blue stem grasses that grow so thickly in those previously burned areas that the grasses make waves on the hillside, a vast green-blue ocean that must have felt, it still feels like an eternity to those who are on hoof or on foot or horseback or wagon. So as we begin this year 2025, together, it is a new year of possibility amidst uncertainty and change, that is for sure. Let us remember to nourish the roots of community, the roots that give us strength, the roots that run deep in the flintiness of our core. So today we will begin this new year with a ritual of prescribed burning. It shall not be uncontrolled burning, it shall be prescribed burning. It is a ritual of fire, even as we acknowledge that there's not a single story that will describe this fire. It is not all good, it is not all bad. Just like this past year, just like the year coming up for us. I would imagine for most of you, this past year has been complex, as it has been for me. Moments of profound grace and beauty and growth, and also moments of despair and pain. As we look forward to 2025, what would you like to take with you? And what can you burn away? What can be transformed by fire into nutrients that will help you grow into this new year? What will continue to feed your strong roots? What will you let go? And what will you invite in? You are the narrator of your story. You are the creator of how it will unfold. How do you want to tell the story of this moment of transformation? Now, in a moment, I'm going to invite you to line up here. We have here flash paper. It's a special kind of paper. For those of you who participated in this last year, you'll recall it is quite dramatic, but I assure you it is safe. If it makes you a little bit nervous, once you set it on fire, you can drop it and nothing bad will happen. I promise. I'm going to invite you to line up. We'll hand you a piece of paper, and before you light it on fire, I would like you to hold it in your hand and think about, give that piece of paper something you would like to let go. Put it in this piece of paper. Or if you'd rather set an intention for next year, you can do that as well. Then, over this candle right here, you will catch it on fire, and it will look like this. It's quite bright. And you can hold it all the way till it touches your hand. Nothing will happen. If it makes you nervous, drop it. That's okay. It just goes away. There's no ash, so you won't drop it on the floor. And I understand, in this flammable environment, this makes people a little nervous, but it's all right. So at this point, I invite you, if you would like to come up forward, if you'd like some assistance, let us know. Perhaps somebody can help you if you'd rather not come forward and burn your intention for you. Sound good? Are we ready? All right, I invite you into the fire communion for today. And one last one for all of the intentions that go unnamed, for all of the folks who feel like they don't want to share, we're not ready to accept, or we're still grappling with where we are. I light one last paper. I did notice with many of you the exuberance. There's something to be said about how you let go of fire. I'm sure that has something to do with that. May we join as a community into this new world that we are getting ready to move into in 2025. Let the fire that we had today be a symbol, be a metaphor for us in letting go, also in the power of nourishment and intention. May it be so.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1028, The Fire of Commitment.
May we all be magicians of our stories this year. For our benediction, I'd like to share with you this poem, For This I Walk Outside by Rosemary Watola Tromer. Not to escape the world, but to be more wholly in it. Sharp cold stings my cheeks, not like a slap, but like the thrilling burn of whiskey as it blazes down the throat, the kind of wild aliveness that brooks no choice but to wake up to life. As the most wondrous thing, even as I steep in the ugliness we humans commit. This is what life asks of us. I walk outside to be more wholly here. Here, the way the Stellar's jay is here. Even on the coldest day, it's every fluffing, every peck, every head bob, every flight is in service to life. It's never confused about its purpose. I want to be in service. Outside, everything is teacher. The cold and the snow and the bird, the day, this fallible human race, this improbable, beautiful planet in space. To serve life, I must inhabit it wholly and be inhabited by it too, as if it could end tonight, as if it goes on forever. Amen.